So please welcome on stage the first speaker, the wonderful Dave Schneider. Woo!
Thank you. Hello, Wembley. Lisbon. Yeah, thanks for coming out early. It's good to get some hugging in. I think all the British people in the audience were going, yes, I do believe in love, but I can't really do this hugging stuff. The empire. Sorry about Brexit. Okay, so yes, me. Let me get on. So we're going to talk about So You Think You're Funny, which is a little bit of an aggressive title. But I'm going to talk about comedy writing and give you some tips on comedy writing. So for those of you who don't know me, who weren't here last year, I gave a talk. I've done a couple of charts by way of introduction. So this is me about 5 years ago, my work-life balance, as you can see. Working a little bit too hard, but not too bad. And this is me now. Still a bit of life and work going on, but basically it's Twitter. Twitter is a gateway drug for me to Facebook and Instagram, Pinterest, what have you. And I set up a company that's the social media creative content company. To justify all the time I waste on Twitter. I've built up an account on Twitter, followed by people who I suppose get my jokes. There's a lot of politics, but I think mainly followed by people who think I'm actually David Schwimmer from Friends, such as this person here. Wouldn't have thought an ex-member of the cast of Friends would be so up in British politics. But that's my main tip about social media is I never tell them that I'm not David Schwimmer because every follower counts, so be shallow. So I do jokes, a lot of political ranting. Here's one of my earliest jokes when Lance Armstrong admitted that he was a drug cheat. I tweeted this: Lance Armstrong isn't even the worst offender in cycling history. Look at this guy, what the hell was he on? And added this picture here. Gradually I built up a following, built up a company, so now I write comedy and other non-comedy output content for lots of brands and broadcasters. But comedy is still a stuff that I do a lot of, and some of it is very short form. Here's a thing that we did for PG Tips, which is a tea company in the UK. Don't you wish your boyfriend was hot like tea? Quoting the Pussycat Girls. So from the shorts, and I've also written a film, The Death of Stalin, co-written with Armando Iannucci, who produced Veep. So a lot of what I'm going to say now, a lot of these tips will apply both for very, very short writing on social media, making videos on social media, right up to writing and making feature films. So let's get on with it. Show me the funny, you all ask. The essence of good comedy, great comedy, and the essence of, in a way, all good art, great art, is surprise. You need to have that element of surprise. Here's a GIF that you may have seen that illustrates exactly that point. You need to be surprised. So in writing, there will be that sudden twist, and that's where the comedy lies, or other sorts of art. So you have 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, floor. So there's that little twist at the end, that little surprise. Here's an example from someone who works in my company who's very good. New boyfriend is allergic to kittens, so can't keep him. He's ginger and named Tom. Friendly, comes when called, 28 years old and works in IT. And you see what she's done there? So she's taken an ambiguity and she's brought us all the way down a certain path. And she's brought us a long way down the path by describing him, in detail. And then she's twisted to say, ha, I want to get rid of my boyfriend, not the cat. So it's all about surprise and bringing people away, like a magician, directing their attention in another direction, and then the comedy reveal. That applies for images as well, like this one of the Cookie Monster behaving in a way that I don't remember the Cookie Monster behaving when I was a child, like that. So it's the surprise that the Cookie Monster is behaving. It's a bit topical that now, a bit unfortunate. And the same with video as well. So with video, surprise with film, it's all about the surprise. I don't know if you saw this back in the days of Vine, or we call it duck army. So it's a guy who just went to a whole load of ducks and pressed them. Well, if the audio works, hopefully you'll see what happens. So I spent about 20 minutes a day watching that. It's instead of mindfulness, that's like, and there what's happening, the comedy is in the surprise that you set out reality in our mundane lives and we just walk on and suddenly there's a thing that twists. So let's look at being more funnier. So some tips to how you can be more funnier, which if you don't speak English, that is bad English. We should be being more. That's sort of a joke. It's a terrible joke. I wish I hadn't done it now, but it's too late. So the essence of being more funnier is exactly the opposite of what I just did in that link. Brevity, keeping it short, keeping it as short as possible. This joke here, I really like. Describe yourself in 3 words: lazy, because the punchline is 4 letters, it's 2 syllables. And that joke, I mean, that's the great thing about Twitter as a joke writer. And if you want to get better at writing jokes, try them out on Twitter, because it's like getting match fits. You just get honed and better. So Twitter's great for offering jokes. So you want a joke to be as short as possible. Strip everything out that's not needed. This is the first joke that any child who speaks English learns. My dog's got no nose. How does it smell? Terrible. And that works because, I mean, it's just the tiniest that you can have that joke idea. If you had my dog's got no nose, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds like a very unfortunate situation, not just for the dog, but for you as well. I mean, it must have so many causes. For instance, he or she, I don't know which one it is, must have a lot of trouble smelling things. How does it smell? Terrible. Obviously, the joke is dead. The joke is dead. There's no joke there because of all the padding. So you want to bring it down and make it as short as possible. Here's a really great joke from a really great comedian, British comedian Tim Vine. Crime in multi-story car parks, that's wrong on so many different levels. Great joke, but if I was script editing that, I would say, I think it would be an even better joke if you lost the difference. You don't need the difference. And when you're writing, whether it's a film script or a tweet, you want to see how small you can get it. So I think that joke is actually slightly better. Crime in multi-story car parks, that's wrong on so many levels because it's even tighter. So when you're writing, I always do a pass. Even if it's a film, I do my tighten pass, where all I'm doing is looking to see if I can remove words, and sometimes even punctuation. So that's the first thing. Keep it as short as you can, brevity. The next thing is structure. There are certain things in writing comedy that work structurally. A well-known one is the rule of 3. So the rule of 3 is 1, 2, and then the payoff. Here's an example of that. I can't think of anything worse after a night of drinking than waking up next to someone and not being able to remember their name or how you met or why they're dead. So it takes us on a journey. Reality, twist. I slightly regret doing that at my age, but anyway, that's how a joke works. The more you can take them down, this is just normal. It's just nothing to see. It's just normal. The more you can then twist into the dead thing, the better. And this is an example where if I was script editing this, I would probably remove the commas. So it's even, I think, subliminally, and I try not to do any commas when I tweet. Even subliminally, I think the commas slow you down slightly as you read it. So remember their name or how you met or why they're dead. I think it's just visually and the way you read it subconsciously is quicker without the commas. So rule of 3 works visually if you're doing video, if you're doing films. Again, here's an example from Airplane of the rule of 3.
That's right, now there'd be a lover boy Quentin Habsburgs.
Oh, you...
Well, I see a certain kitten still knows how to scratch.
So, rule of 3, always 1, 2, 3. That's the essence of comedy. The other big structural thing is the punchline. So, just as you want to clean up the setup, you want to clean up the joke. You want to get rid of words, the different levels. You want to clean it right down. You want as clean a punch as possible. I see, like, the setup and the payoff in a joke as like a perfect serve. You've got to make sure that if that bit isn't good and clean, if the setup isn't perfect, then your punchline won't be perfect either. Here's an example of what I think is a beautiful punchline, but you've got to set it up as cleanly as possible. So this is a dog that looks like Samuel L. Jackson, and there you have it. So it's a very clear punchline, visual punchline, and you just need to set it up as clearly as you can. With the punchline, if you're writing the joke, push it right to the end. Push it as close to the end as possible. So, for instance, here's a joke. I don't know if you remember during the campaign for the US election, Melania Trump once sort of quoted exactly Michelle Obama's speech. So this is a joke from a while back that we did. Melania Trump expected to deliver a speech expressing her delight at being the first African-American First Lady. And I just grabbed that as an example. That's a satirical British social media feed that we do. You just need to get the punchline as far to the end as possible. Here's another great tweet. Every time you RT this, a turtle learns Kung Fu from a few years ago. And you can see learns Kung Fu works because it's at the end. If you reverse it, a turtle learns Kung Fu every time you RT this. It's woolly. It doesn't have that sudden build. Again, visuals. Here's another one from Airplane. So she's asking for a doctor. Does anyone know if there's a doctor?
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry I have to wake you. You a doctor?
That's right.
We have some passengers that are very sick. Could you come take...
And there what they've done is, again, they've brought us on the walk to reality. They brought us on a walk to reality by not showing him, and then the reveal. It's all very crisp and clear. Okay, got to move on. Lots to get through. Choose life, choose a job, choose a really good opening. This is so important on social media. We all know with Facebook videos, you've got to get them in 3 seconds. That's almost a cliche. Here's the thing, forgive me, it's me. It's me actually being the presenter. But it's a thing that I did for Ford. I try and make sure there's a clear joke in the first 3 seconds. So it's not the greatest joke, but I'll show you what I mean.
Paris! 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 What is this?
So you need your strong opening. Not saying that's going to win any awards, but you need your strong opening that says what that's a joke. And the same with writing. Strong opening, like a headline to pull them in. This was the astronaut was Tim Peake, a British astronaut. And so we suggested from one of our accounts, practical joke idea, all dress in ape costumes for when Tim Peake gets back from space. So it was the practical joke idea, the big opening that arrests people. Okay, the next thing with being more fun is a really important thing, and it's specificity. You need to be as specific as possible. This is where you mustn't be lazy. So I have a thing this is the sort of shorthand for this, a small child's face. If I say it was roughly the size of a face, that's quite funny. I think if you say it was roughly the size of a child's face, I think that's funnier. If you go really specific and say it's roughly the size of a small child's face, I think what that does, it sort of makes people think, oh, yeah. It's the effort that I've made to be precise is rewarded in the humor. So be as precise as you can. There's a thing that we have. It's a small transfer. That I was a part of a sitcom that created a character called Alan Partridge in the UK, and he's quite, Steve Coogan plays him. And we had to decide where he came from. And initially, we thought Milton Keynes. Now, for those of you who aren't British, Milton Keynes, especially in the 90s, is a sort of comedy. It's a sort of funny place. Everyone thinks it's a bit funny. But we rejected that. You reject the obvious choice because you want to go further down the train line to something really, really funny. And that's why he comes from Norwich, which was original. It didn't have any comedy value at that point. So it's about stopping, not getting off the first station on the comedy line, but making sure you go further. So here's another example from The Thick of It, which is a comedy show in the UK that went on to become Veep in America in a way. We have a saying in English, as useless as a chocolate teapot. So it's going to melt. But what they did in The Thick of It, and forgive me, it's a bit early for this, it's a little bit rude, any under 18s or 16s, avert your eyes now, don't look. And so they had the thing called marzipan. It's useless as a marzipan dildo. And that's just gone a little bit further. The image is hideous but strong. And the word marzipan, I would say, is funny in itself. So ignore everything else. Marzipan, just that word, that type of thing. I don't know what frangipani, whatever you call it in Portuguese. But it's a slightly unusual thing. It's not Milton Keynes. It's not the first stop on the line. We've gone unusual. We've found something unusual. And that gets rewarded in laughter. I quite like this sort of meme thing. Last night, a movie theater was robbed of $1,000. The thieves took one large bag of popcorn, a combo meal, and a box of Milk Duds. Now, I've no idea what Milk Duds is. I'm not American. But it's a funny concept, and it's specific. It's a very specific thing, one box of Milk Duds. And I think that's why that works. The next thing is build. You mustn't let people get bored, even when you're writing a tweet. I make sure that I build throughout the 140 characters. I often think about the Woody Allen thing from Annie Hall, where he said a relationship is like a shark. It has to keep moving, like sharks have to keep moving. And same with jokes. Jokes have to keep moving, otherwise you have a dead joke. So you need to build the curve, keep building what you're doing. So again, sorry, there's a little bit of crudity here, a little bit of swearing, but this is an old Rowan Atkinson sketch that is a nice example of how you build a routine.
All right, come on, settle down, please. Answer your names. Anus. Arse bandit. Bottom. Clitoris. Where are you, clitoris?
So you see what he did there? I'm sorry to throw these words at you so early in the morning, but what he did there was there's the first three and the sort of funny words, slightly rude words for calling the register of names. I should have explained that. That was bad. That's a terrible setup from me. That's a headmaster calling out the names of the children in his class rather than just random words. So he had the anus, arse bandits, bottom. That was funny, but he can't sustain. You need to keep that shark going. So he then went on to clitoris, and then he had to do, I can't believe I've just said that out loud in the Web Summit, but he then had to build on it and have a supplementary joke, where are you, clitoris, so that it kept moving on, otherwise you get bored. I really like this tweet. The Big Ben, the big clock at Parliament is silent, it's for repairs. 6 hours since Big Ben fell silent. No one knows what time it is. The BBC's best guess is 1872. Dinosaurs spotted in the switch. Chaos reigns. And why I like that, it's only a tweet. It's only 140 characters. But it keeps moving. It keeps moving things. No, there's the statements, the setup. No one knows what time it is. The BBC guessed this. Then you're on to dinosaurs. There's the precision. It's very precise where they're spotted in Ipswich. Chaos reigns. So that's a great, even within a tweet, you've got a build, you've got telling a little story. Okay, I've got about 5 minutes left, so I just want to give you some tips on finding the funny, how to try and find funny. So the first thing is human truths. So there's a dad at a Justin Bieber concert. We can all relate to that. It's that thing that if you can tap in on what is true, what people are like, and make everyone relate to it. Relatable human truths. That's not just true for humor. That's, in a way, humanity, human stories. We do a lot of those with my company. That's even more shareable and relatable than humor sometimes. But we're talking about humor now. So find something that is relatable and humorous and about people. So, Mum, that's not a picture of Jesus with Ewan McGregor. There's some incredible reality about it that allows us to enjoy it. Observational humor as well. That's great. I mean, I could give you any number of examples from Seinfeld or wherever. But here's a tweet from one of our workers: how to fold a fitted sheet. Hold sheet lengthwise with corner in each hand, fold in a half, roll into ball, call it a dick, shove it in a drawer. And that does well because we all sort of relate. So observational humor, humor about life. And on social media, what's incredibly strong is being topical, capturing the moment that everyone, capturing the conversation. So here's an example for Channel 4, which is a broadcaster in the UK that we do the account for. And it was when there's Trump, I hate Trump, I love Trump, I hate Brexit, I love Brexit. Everyone's arguing. And so we put this tweet out: breaking, the world's problems will not be solved by arguing with strangers on Twitter. We'll update you when we have more on this story. So it's not a fantastic joke. It's not Oscar Wilde. But what it is, it's just tapping into the moment. It's just looking at what's going on. You can see, there's amazing numbers because it just feels right. And that's where comedy, if you can tap into what's topical, then you get a boost. It's like you surf the wave of topicality. So a joke that maybe isn't so strong can really get a boost. So topicality is a really important thing. A real essential quality of jokes is mashing up, the mashup, taking two things together. So it could be in languages. So here's me, I'll see you in a month. Wife, don't forget to write. It's highly unlikely I'd forget such a basic skill, Sharon. Where it's like writing, the word writing, we sort of play with that. Same with this one, which is relevant to us here at Web Summit. Update the Force Luke from Adobe One Kenobi. And again, what they've done, that's a pun, so they've just taken that mashup, two separate things, and brought them together. And that's what a lot of comedy is. It's seeing reality in a way that links it with something else. The reveal is something similar. So you, as the comedian, as the person putting out the piece of comedy, sees something in a different way, joins it together, mashes it up, and people go, oh my God, yes. And there's an enjoyment, a humor release in that. So for instance, we've got this one, Serene, which I don't know if you have this in your country, but it's a type of fruit loaf. Serene, 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 serene. I'm begging you, please don't take my man, is what she put. So it's from a song which some of the older people amongst you might recognize. And it does very well for her because it's taking things together. Here's a really, if you know this song, you'll go, bloody hell. It's Oasis Wonderwall. So he's written, today is going to be the day that they're going to throw it back to you. And then the advert on Groupon actually had, buy now, Prosecco and a wow burlesque show plus a meal for two. And what are the chances? And so by bringing those things together, there's a big outlet of humor, big content of humor. So very quickly, I just want to show you how I think one way of working when you want to write comedy, and that's the evidence board. It's like joining up all the different things that might connect. So when I had this Lance Armstrong joke, I'm thinking about bikes, cyclists. What is there out there with cyclists? And E.T. would be one of those things that I'd grab and put together. So, for instance, if I wanted to do comedy about changing a king-size duvet, we had a fitted sheet. I might mentally, and some people actually do it as a diagram, think, right, fitted sheet, well, you could get lost in it. So the top right, you get lost in it. Fitted sheet, all the things you can find the remote control, money, my virginity down the back of the fitted sheet. You could think about, it's a king size. Sorry, not fitted sheet, duvet. It's a king size duvet. Is there anything in Kings, Game of Thrones stuff? Is there anything in like how you wrestle with it? And this is what happens in my head when I'm trying to think of a joke. And I know a lot of people write little tree diagrams, and that helps them come up with a joke. And once you've got the joke, and then actually I should have disappointed you there because I haven't actually come up with the final joke, but I'll think of something and tweet it. Then you're off on the journey of not letting people see the connection, bring them down, it's all real, and then do the twist where you bring them back to where you were. Great. So I hope that's been useful. Sorry it's been so quickly. I'm just going to leave you with some of one of my favorite sort of series of jokes that I've seen online recently, which has a lot of things. It has surprise. It has Brevity. It has a great build to it, and it has that real human relatability. Some of you may have seen this. So this is what was tweeted by some West Ham United. So these are football fans, West Ham United fans, asking Everton, so soccer fans, threatening them, trying to threaten them. We'll be waiting for you boys tomorrow, trying to look as threatening as possible. And then someone noticed that the guy on the right wasn't actually holding anything. So he was just like, is he meant to carry something? So that's already, there we are, there, so the build is starting. And then all the Photoshoppers came in, and so they gave him pizza. They gave him fish to carry. There he is juggling. Then there's from Lidl, etc., etc. Golf sale. Don't know what he's got in the Lidl bags, or it's probably like some. I mean, do you have Lidl here? Everyone has Lidl, don't they? Yeah, some family-sized sauerkraut and ski pants or something. And you can see that how there's a build that keeps going, and in a way, Twitter worked together in the best possible sense to keep that build, to keep that comedy going. Okay, well, I've got 14 seconds left, which is just enough time to say thank you for listening. Have a great Web Summit, and obrigado. Thank you.